Hi, everybody. This is session 6, which is entitled Looking Back from the End of Stories with New Insights about Themes. Now, I know some of you have read 2 books, some of you are on your 3rd. It doesn't matter what book you use for this lesson to practice this skill because it's really important. Really strong readers look back at look at the ending of the book and really try to take a moment and think about how the ending offers new insights. Okay, so today I'm going to teach you that readers develop new insights about their books by pausing to look back on the earlier parts and asking, what is the author communicating in the ending, and what parts of the book do I now see in a new light? And then you can see how those images or messages might shed light on earlier parts of the book. So I'm going to do this a little bit with Patrol. First, I'll pause to think about the ending. Okay, so what? Pause to think about the ending. Okay. This land has wide valleys, mountains that stretch along the far horizon, rushing brown rivers and thick green forests, and war. We land. I'm glad that I'm alive. As the heat of the day passes to the heat of night, I write a letter to someone I love. I wonder if my enemy is writing a letter. I am so tired. I am so very tired of this war. So it's a powerful and a sad ending, and he seems so exhausted by this war, but he's also realizing that he is stuck there, even though he hates it. And if I think about what kind of work the ending is doing here, I'd say it's trying to communicate a theme, especially when the soldier says those lines, I write a letter to someone I love, and I wonder if my enemy is writing a letter. So Meyer seems to be explaining how enemies in war have a common humanity. And I think we talked about that at various points in other lessons. So enemies in war have a common humanity is a possible theme. But let's see if we can use this idea to reconsider the significance of earlier parts of the text. So to go back to earlier parts, I know that there's like this, with these ending words, it reminds me of something that happened in the beginning. So I have to just kind of flip a little bit here and take a look at maybe my jots. Here. Okay, it says, this is earlier in the text, this land has wide valleys, mountains that stretch along the far horizon. Those lines are from earlier in the book, and I remember them. So hindsight is 20/20, and if you have heard the expression before or you haven't, it means that looking back, things that when you are looking forward, you may not have noticed. When you're in the middle of something, you might not have noticed, but having knowledge of what happens later, everything seems much clearer. So we're using that sort of hindsight is 20/20 to look back and see, so what kind of work could those repeated lines do? Because there were lines repeated at the end of the book in the beginning. We all know now that repetition is always always should make you stop and go, you know, the author is trying to tell me something, that if they're repeating, he's repeating something like he is here. So it says, the land of my enemy has wide valleys, mountains that stretch along the far horizon, rushing brown rivers and thick green forests. So how do these fit together, this like beginning part and this ending part? So maybe Walter D. Myers wants to tell us that to really understand that Vietnam is beautiful. That could be part of it, but it doesn't seem like enough, right? The phrase, the land of my enemy, is not included in that ending part. Maybe Myers really wants us to understand that the soldier sees the Vietnamese people not as enemies anymore, because in the first one he says with the land of my enemy, but at the end, even though he's repeating that phrase, he does not call it the land of his enemy. So in the beginning, that's how we refer to Vietnam, but in the end, something has changed, a little piece, and we notice because the repetition is exactly the same. And so this ending makes me think that This story is really about how even in war, people are more similar than different. Enemies have a lot in common. Maybe that's the horror of war. You might know this, but be powerless to do anything about it, like the soldier is in patrol. So you see how I looked at the ending and I was like, this looks familiar. The author's using repetition here. And then I went back and found where did I see that before? Where did I see that before? And then I noticed when I reread it that there was something a little bit different, and maybe that little difference is there to teach us part of the theme. So I want you to sometime this week take a look at an ending, either of the books you've already read. Maybe you'll finish up a book this week and really look back at some of the earlier parts with the new information you have about the ending, and that's Hindsight is 2020. And I'm going to put a little a link to a kind of a cheat sheet that'll help you do some of that thinking work, because it's really important. You don't want to go like the end, and the way that you did when maybe you were, 6, because you're not. And you are going to be able to recognize when you look at things that way, more specific and more important and more nuanced understandings. Oh, look, Sweetie's visiting. Hello, Sweetie. Hello. See, look, who's that doggy? Can you see that? No, can't see it. All right, so that's your little task for today. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you when we have a team meeting. Okay, bye.